The action kicks off in Japan, where we meet the highly skilled American intelligence operative, Eve. She's perched on a skyscraper's rooftop, targeting a gang leader named Kenji. Eve, showing incredible nerve, rappels down the building, taking out the guard at the door. Kenji is on the phone in his office when he's shocked to find Eve's gun pressed to his head. She demands he open his safe and hand over the flash drive. Kenji complies, but one of his guards attacks Eve. Kenji seizes the moment, grabs the flash drive, and runs. Eve quickly neutralizes the guard, shoots Kenji in the leg, and chases after him. She systematically eliminates every one of Kenji's men until Kenji himself surprises her with a blow to the head. Eve gets right back up, returns the hit, grabs him, and drowns him in a swimming pool to ensure he's dead. She takes the flash drive from his pocket and vanishes.
Eve returns home to Croatia, where she lives with her husband David, a doctor. They're a seemingly happy couple, exchanging anniversary gifts. The next day, Eve goes to work and meets her superior, Graves. They head to a secure facility to review the files she recovered. We learn Eve is tracking a notorious international criminal named Kaylee, and the files reveal Kaylee was running an operation for Kenji. Crucially, neither Eve nor Graves knows Kaylee's true identity. Graves sends Eve home early to rest. Upon arriving, Eve greets her neighbor Abby and her husband Nick. She enters her apartment to find it trashed and David's glasses on the floor. David's phone rings, and when Eve answers, a man threatens to kill her husband unless she cooperates. He orders her to steal a highly classified file called Canary Black, held by a prisoner named Stoka. Stoka, she's told, has the file hidden inside his dental work and is held in a secret U.S. intelligence facility. The man gives her Stoka's file number and a strict deadline, 9 hours. He describes a payphone that will ring at midnight. If she doesn't answer with the Canary Black file in hand, David dies. She is explicitly warned not to contact her agency.
Eve immediately calls Serena, a hacker. Eve gives her the caller's number and demands she trace the location, threatening to expose Serena's past security breach to Russian intelligence. Serena reluctantly agrees. Eve heads back to the office, where Graves is surprised to see her, but Eve shrugs, saying she hates vacations. She accesses her computer and searches for Stoka's file. The file is encrypted, but she uses the number from the blackmailer to open it. She finds Stoka was jailed for espionage and that the arresting officer was Max. Serena texts Eve the location of the call. Eve drives there fast, calls the number, and hears a phone ringing nearby. Following the sound, she enters an empty room to find the phone and next to it, David's wedding ring. The phone rings and Eve answers. The voice tells her she made a mistake by trying to trace him and warns her again that David will die. As punishment, he informs her she's standing on a landmine and hangs up.
Eve moves with extreme caution, lifts a floorboard, and uses her phone to photograph the mine to identify its type and disarm it. She breaks a table leg, carefully steps off the mine, and tosses the table leg out of the room. The mine explodes a safe distance away, causing massive damage. Eve goes to the secret intelligence facility where Stoka is imprisoned. She meets with the officer in charge, Max, and demands to see Stoka. Max denies her access, but she convinces him that Stoka is connected to her Kenji case. Max agrees, but tells her he'll be watching from the next room. Once inside, Eve questions Stoka about the Canary Black file and offers him freedom. Stoka refuses to cooperate. Eve attacks him, knocking him down. The artificial tooth with the file pops out of his mouth, but Eve is stunned. The tooth is empty. Max rushes in to arrest her for deception, but Eve takes him down and escapes. Max sees the artificial tooth and assumes Eve has the Canary Black file. He orders a full lockdown and an arrest warrant for Eve. Everyone chases her, but Eve uses her combat skills to evade them all, exiting the facility and locking the door with a large crate. A high-ranking official, Evans, chastises Max for letting the file slip away. Graves enters defending Eve, assuring Evans that he's known her since she was 18 and that she couldn't possibly be a traitor. He asks what the stolen file contains. Evans explains it's top secret, containing complete data on all U.S. intelligence and administration personnel. Any hostile agency could use it to blackmail and turn them into spies. Graves and Max start searching for David for any lead on Eve. Eve calls Graves from her home phone. Graves pretends to be David to keep Max from suspecting. Eve tells him David was kidnapped and the captors want the Canary Black file, confirming she never found it on Stoka. She asks Graves to go to her place to confirm the break-in. Graves agrees. He and Max go to her apartment but find the place clean, with no sign of a kidnapping. Meanwhile, Eve meets with a mercenary named Arbin, who works for the highest bidder. She requests intelligence on all foreign agents in the country and gives him a list of supplies. Eve heads to a safe house apartment. As she enters, she quickly draws a pistol from under a table just as an unknown assailant attacks. She manages to overpower and kill him. She goes to the kitchen and pulls out a secret bag. Before she can open it, the dead man's phone rings. The blackmailer is on the line. He informs her he took the money from the bag so she'd focus only on the mission. Eve insists she never found the file on Stoka, but the voice doesn't believe her. He video calls her, showing David being tortured. She now has only 4 hours to deliver the file. Eve sends an encoded message to Graves for a meeting. Graves tells her there was no evidence of a kidnapping at her home. Eve says that's normal for professional operators. Graves wants her not to turn over the file, because doing so would make her a traitor. Suddenly, Max and his team arrive to arrest Eve. Eve is shocked by Graves' betrayal, but he insists he's protecting her because her life is at risk. On the way back to the HQ, 2 cars with masked men appear. They attach explosives to Max's cars. They detonate one and blow the door off the other to grab Eve. Max's men get into a fierce gunfight with the masked attackers. Graves drives his car and rams one of the attackers' vehicles, causing it to crash into a tram. The second attacker's car hits Eve's car, causing a major crash. Eve crawls out unharmed, grabs a rifle and a grenade, and opens fire on the attacker's car. She throws the grenade, blowing it up. One masked man survives and chases Eve. Graves is wounded and can't move. Eve runs and fakes a surrender. As the man approaches, she attacks, leading to a brutal fight. Eve stabs him and pulls off his mask to discover it's her neighbor, Nick. She demands to know David's location, but Nick dies. Eve takes Nick's phone and photographs him. At the HQ, Graves and Max are stunned when Eve sends the photo of Nick. Graves is furious that Nick was Eve's neighbor and orders a deep dive into Nick's background. Elsewhere, Abby, Nick's wife, is distraught over his death. Her superior, Breznov, dismisses it, saying death is normal in their line of work. Breznov then executes the last surviving member of Nick's team. Eve meets Arbin and gets the list of secret agents in the city. She's shocked to find the name of Kali, the criminal she's been tracking for years. Arbin also reveals Nick's real name is Rurik, a secret agent who worked for multiple intelligence agencies. Eve takes the bag of supplies from Arbin and leaves. Meanwhile, Evans meets with the director of Croatian intelligence, who turns out to be Breznov, the blackmailer who wants the Canary Black file. Breznov criticizes Evans for the violence on Ukrainian soil. Evans apologizes, explaining they're chasing a rogue agent, and offers to cooperate. Breznov accepts. Eve checks into a hotel, insisting on a specific room because of the view. She opens Arbin's bag, which contains a pistol, a small bomb, and a mask. Eve climbs out the window, cautiously moves to another room, smashes the glass, and enters. At that moment, Evans is also in the hotel and enters his room to sleep.
Eve attacks him immediately, puts the mask on him, ties him to a chair. Evans screams, but no sound comes out. The mask is soundproof. She tells him she's not a traitor. David was kidnapped, and the captors want the file. She raises the volume so he can hear and demands his computer password to copy the Canary Black file. Evans refuses. Eve tortures him, forcing him to give her a password. She finds it's wrong and tortures him again. He gives her a second password, also wrong. Eve pulls out the bomb, attaches it to his neck, and threatens to kill him if he lies again. Evans is terrified and gives her a third password, which is also wrong. His account is now locked and can only be accessed from the main servers. Eve realizes she's been tricked, hits him hard, and he passes out. Eve calls Serena, asking her to hack the U.S. intelligence database in Ukraine for the location of their main server farm. Serena quickly succeeds. Serena sends Eve a decryption device for electronic locks and the building blueprints to her phone.
Eve uses a drone, piloted by Serena, to reach the server building. She goes to the server room, uses the decoder, and opens the door. She inserts Evan's ID card into the main terminal, finds the Canary Black file, and starts copying it to a flash drive. At the hotel, Evan's secretary goes to his room to tell him his ID was used in the server room. She knocks, gets no answer, and asks security to open the door. Everyone is shocked by Evan's condition. They remove the mask and bomb. Evans tells them Eve stole his ID and is trying to get the file. The alarms blare throughout the building, but Eve has finished copying the file. She exits the room, finding security guards waiting. She tells Serena to send the drone. Eve engages the guards in a gunfight and escapes. She runs to a window, shoots out the glass, and the drone arrives. Eve leaps out and grabs onto the drone, but the guards shoot and disable it. The drone crashes fast. Eve lets go, crashing onto a car below and then onto the street. A passing driver stops to check on her, but Eve takes his car and drives to meet Serena.
Eve plugs the flash drive into Serena's laptop to see the contents. Eve is horrified. The file is a powerful virus that can shut down the internet in any country in seconds, causing a complete systems failure. Eve realizes it's only 6 minutes until midnight. She grabs the flash drive, destroys Serena's computer, takes her phone, and texts Graves to let him trace the phone. Eve speeds off, crashes into another car, but gets out and races toward the payphone. The phone rings. Eve lifts the receiver, but she's too late. The call ends. She stands there, hoping it will ring again, but someone attacks her from behind with a taser and injects her with a sedative. A short time later, Brezhnev appears wearing a mask, broadcasting a live message. At an international summit, world leaders are meeting and are shocked by Brezhnev's broadcast. Brezhnev declares he possesses a cyber virus more dangerous than a nuclear bomb, capable of crippling any nation. To prove it, he deploys the virus on Singapore. Within seconds, their systems fail and the power goes out. Brezhnev demands every nation pay 1% of its GDP to a specified account. They have 1 hour to comply. He warns that any country that doesn't pay will suffer Singapore's fate. The broadcast ends. Chaos erupts as leaders contact their staff to figure out a response. Meanwhile, Graves successfully traces Eve's phone. He infiltrates the location disguised as a drunk, then draws his weapon and kills the guards. He follows a tunnel underground and is shocked to find Brezhnev. Graves is stunned, asking where Eve is. Brezhnev reveals the virus is his own operation and his agency knows nothing. Graves draws his gun, but Brezhnev kills him and orders his men to dispose of the body. Brezhnev goes to Eve and slaps her awake. Eve is horrified to realize he's behind everything. She demands David as agreed. Brezhnev says David is there and sends Abby to retrieve him. Abby returns and shoots David in the stomach. David falls. Eve yells at Brezhnev, saying this wasn't the deal. Brezhnev explains Abby wants revenge for Nick and walks away.
Abby grabs David, pulling a knife to kill him in front of Eve. David manages to break free. Eve grabs Abby's leg and strangles her. At the same time, David attacks and kills the guard. David frees himself from his restraints and gets into a vicious fight with Abby. Eve notes David's impressive fighting skills. David kills Abby, then goes to Eve and frees her. Eve asks David who he is. Eve is stunned when David reveals He works for the mafia and is the criminal Callie she's been hunting. David explains he knew the virus was with US intelligence. He failed a mission for Breznov, and to save himself, he told Breznov about the virus. Breznov then forced them to fake David's kidnapping to make Eve retrieve the file. David begs her to forgive him, saying he did it to protect her too, because Breznov would have killed him and then her. David offers to help her take down Breznov to make amends. Eve says nothing. She leaves him to find Breznov. On the way, she finds Graves' dead body. She pauses, heartbroken.
Meanwhile, Max successfully tracks Graves' phone after he disappeared. Breznov is thrilled as his assistant, Reed, tells him several countries have wired the money. Breznov picks 3 nations that haven't paid and orders Reed to launch the virus against them as an example. Just then, David reaches the electrical panel and destroys it. The area goes dark, but Breznov's men start the backup generators. Eve reaches Breznov, hearing Reed say the program will launch in 10 seconds. David sees a guard who tries to shoot him, but David kills him first. Breznov hears the shots and orders his men to seal the room. Eve opens fire before they can close the doors. A fierce gunfight erupts. Breznov decides to grab Reed and leave. Eve kills the last of Breznov's men. Another guard spots her and is about to shoot, but David suddenly appears and kills him. Eve chases Breznov and Reed, shooting Reed in the leg. Breznov shoots back at Eve and she takes cover. Breznov tells Reed to launch the virus at the 3 target nations. Reed crawls to the computer and launches the virus.
Eve emerges, shoots Breznov in the shoulder, and attacks him. He fights back, and they both fall to the floor below. Breznov gets up, grabs a knife, and tries to stab Eve. Eve overpowers him, forcing him to stab himself. He dies. Eve quickly moves and disconnects the computer from the internet just before the virus upload completes. David arrives and asks for a chance to fix his mistake. Eve tells him her trust is gone, returns both wedding rings, and says they can never be together again. Max and his team arrive. David escapes by jumping into the river. Eve is arrested. Evans interrogates her. He tells her he's going to break her fingers, just like she broke his. Eve responds by hitting him in the face and breaking his nose.
Evans is interrupted when a woman named Lisa enters the room. Lisa tells Evans a call from his superior is coming and instructs him to take it outside. Evans' phone rings. It is his boss, and Evans leaves to take the call. Lisa sits across from Eve and introduces herself as the Director of Military Intelligence for the United Kingdom. Lisa is impressed with Eve's actions and offers her a job in exchange for staying out of prison. Eve surprises Lisa, saying no one can jail her. She shows Lisa the handcuffs, which she picked with the paperclip. Eve accepts the offer. Lisa gives her a business card and a coat so she can leave the facility. Eve walks down the street, clearly still in love with David. She suddenly sees her wedding ring on a fence, confirming David is alive. She takes the ring and walks away. The movie ends.